Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass. Now, in previous lessons that I've recorded on triads and chord tones, I've generally worked through all of the different triads, but today we're going to look at a single arpeggio, the major arpeggio, and how you can approach learning it to maximize your knowledge of both harmony and the fretboard. As always, the lesson material can be found over at the Talkingbass website. Just follow the link in the info below, and while you're there, also be sure to check out the lesson map where you'll find over 350 other free lessons, all systemized for the ease of navigation. And then, if you want to take your playing further, check out the premium courses that we have there on everything from beginner bass guitar to reading music to harmony studies, ear training, technique setups, and much, much more. Okay, so what is an arpeggio? Well, it's just a chord played one note at a time. That's it. So here's a C major chord, and here's a C major arpeggio. Okay, so the notes of that chord are C, E, and G. So when we play them in ascending order, we're playing an arpeggio. Those individual notes are chord tones. So we have a chord made up of chord tones, and an arpeggio is an ordered line of chord tones. That's it. Now, in many of my other lessons, you'll hear me talk about the construction principles of chords. Basically, triads, seventh chords, and the extensions are created by stacking thirds, and we call this tertian harmony. But don't worry about that for now. There are two common third intervals, the major third and the minor third. Major third, minor third. And by stacking these in various combinations, we create the various chords that you'll encounter in Western music. For more information on that, I do have the Chord Tone Essentials course that covers absolutely everything that you need to know about chord tones, and I also have quite a few lessons here on YouTube discussing chord construction, and I'll link to those in the info below. So the major arpeggio is made up of a major third and a minor third. For a C major arpeggio, we take a C, so there's one at the third fret of the A string, then we build a major third, okay, so a major third interval. That takes us to an E, so I've got that at the second fret of the D string there, and then we want a minor third from the E up to the G, which I'm playing there at the fifth fret of the D string. So that is our C major arpeggio. C, E, and G. We had the major third from C to E, and the minor third from E to G, and that's it. Now, many players will often learn that single one-octave arpeggio shape, and that's it. But that's a very limited approach. Chord tones are the most useful things that you can learn on a bass. They are the key to understanding how you create bass lines, melodies, solos, and every other type of musical content through a chord progression, because you're learning what the notes of those chords are. So you really want to try and learn the chord tones and arpeggios for every chord type in order to free yourself from these restricted areas of the bass and open up the whole fretboard. So first things first, it's worth knowing that even from a single root note on the fretboard, we have three different ways that we can play any one arpeggio just because of the layout of the fretboard. So I'm talking vertically here across the neck. So that C major arpeggio contains the notes C, E, and G. So from the third fret of the A string, we had the original shape that I just showed you. We've got the C, E, G, third fret A string, then second fret D string, fifth fret on the D string. But we could also play that G as the open G. So there we are. There's another of the C major patterns. We could also play it with the E on the A string. So C there, third fret of the A string, then E at the seventh fret of the A string, and then the G at the fifth fret of the D string. So that's a much wider way of playing it. Again, from that third fret of the A string. So we can work across there, across here, and here. And you'll often see me talk about these patterns based on the finger that we're playing them. So I generally call that a third or fourth finger pattern working across there, because if we were to play it, in a different area of the bass, we'd be starting on the fourth finger. Then we've got the second finger pattern, because we start on the second finger, and then this is the first finger pattern. So all exactly the same notes, but in different areas of the fretboard, but all starting from that same third fret there. Now, learning a few patterns in this way can be very useful and helps to expand your perspective a little, but there is no substitute for learning the actual notes of a chord. So we're learning the spelling of the chords. It's all too easy to learn a pattern, and mindlessly shift it around the neck. The problem comes when you have to play horizontally on the neck rather than vertically. For example, if I want to play a 3-octave G major arpeggio on this bass, how would I do it? Well, there's a G down here at the 3rd fret of the E string, and I do have 24 frets, so I could play the G up here at the 24th fret of the G string, so it's the full range of the bass. So I've got to get from here up to here. So how am I going to do that? And if I was asked that question by someone using only those simple 1-octave box shapes, they'd need me to reel off some special, 3-octave arpeggio shape. But the reality is that there are many, many ways to get from here up to here. If you know the notes of the G major triad are G, B, and D, and you sufficiently know the notes on your neck, then you can just see those notes in every position on the neck and just follow a path up through them. So I could start G, B, D, G, B, D, G, B, D, G. That's one way of doing it. I could work up here. G, B, D, G, B, D, G, B, D, G, however you want to climb up through there. As long as you know the notes and you know the notes on your fretboard, you just create a path. Also, when you know the notes of the chords, it allows you to isolate the chord tones when playing through a bass line. So for that simple C major chord, we know that we have C, E, and G. C is the root note, E is the 3rd, and G is the 5th. So I can pick those notes out, those separate chord tones, anywhere I want. So as a bit of an extreme example, here's a pretty simple bass line, but I'm going to pick out the 3rd and the 5th in different areas of the bass. So if I'm playing the root note C, there's the 3rd, that E, there's the 5th. I can play it anywhere I want. So, how do we go about learning these chord tones? Well, one of the easiest ways is by using simple spelling drills. You simply recite the notes of the chords. So let's take the major arpeggios with roots on the natural notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So here you can see the basic spellings. So these are really simple to learn because you're just learning 3 notes each time. So let's work through those. So we have C major is C, E, and G. Then D major, D, F sharp, and A. E major is E, G sharp, B. F major, F, A, C. G major is G, B, and D. A major is A, C sharp, and E. And B major is B, D sharp, and F sharp. And you can recite them away from the bass and also try writing them down, both as letters on a page and as notes on manuscript paper. Don't worry too much about learning them on the bass to begin with. If you know them away from the bass, it means you've internalized them, and that gives you the ability to play them on any instrument. All you need to do is learn the layout of the notes on that instrument. Now, there are a few things that will probably help when learning to recite these arpeggios, just a few little patterns. So first, take the notes of the C, F, and G arpeggios. They have no sharps or flats, so we have C, E, and G, F, A, and C, and G, B, and D. Then for the others, all except B, we have a sharp on the middle note. So D, F sharp, and A, E, G sharp, and B, A, C sharp, and E. B major is the odd one out. Here we have 2 sharps, so B, D sharp, and F sharp. So just try working through them whenever you're away from the bass. So a simple, spelling drill might go C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G sharp, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C sharp, E, and B, D sharp, and F sharp. And that's it. That's your spelling drill. You just work through them. And like I said, you can write them down on a piece of paper as many times as you want, because that all helps with the internalization. And try on manuscript paper. Try writing out those notes, and that'll also help with your reading ability. So once you have the natural root notes taken care of, then you can move on to the sharps and flats. Now, a quick word on this. The sharps are much less common, and the flats are going to be the focus of your attention. To learn the sharps, all you have to do is sharpen all those notes that we've already learned, which is really, really easy. So C sharp major, we just take C, E, G that we've already learned, and we just put sharps after them. So C sharp, E sharp, G sharp. Everything is sharp in there. So Same goes for F sharp and G sharp major. So we have F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, B sharp, D sharp. Then, if we look at the other ones, such as D sharp or E sharp, have a look at what happens. We get D sharp, F double sharp, and A sharp. Then E sharp, G double sharp, and B sharp, okay? So those double sharps mean we just don't see them as much. However, you can also see that they're pretty easy to recite once you've learned the natural ones. So all you're doing is adding sharps on, and if there's a sharp there, it becomes a double sharp. So for the flats, again, all we're doing is amending the ones that we learned as naturals. So first of all, we've got the easy ones, C flat major, F flat major, and G flat major, where we just flatten everything. So we had C, E, and G for C major, so now we have C flat, E flat, and G flat. Then for F major, it was F, A, C, so now we have F flat, A flat, C flat. G flat major, G flat, B flat, D flat. So we're just flattening everything. Then we can move on to those three with the hump in the middle. So we had D major, E major, and A major. So now that hump in the middle that was a sharp becomes a natural. So for D flat major, we'd have D flat, F, A flat. Remember it was D, F sharp, A before. D flat, F, A flat. Then for E flat, remember E major was E, G sharp, B. So now we have E flat, G, B flat. Okay? A flat major, A flat, C, E flat. Again, we've got the little hump in the middle. And then obviously for B flat, that's really easy. Before we had, for B major, it was B, D sharp, F sharp. We had the two sharps. They become naturals. So B flat, D, F. Dead simple. Okay? And that's all of them. That's every single major triad. So once you can recite all of them away from the bass, it'll make things way easier when applying them. You actually have a really, really strong foundation to build from. So next, let's try applying them to the bass. So here's a simple exercise that's probably going to be pretty hard for most of you with a less than adequate knowledge of the fretboard. What we're going to do is play each arpeggio on a single string with a single finger, and we'll try this on each string. And this prevents you from relying on patterns, and it develops your knowledge of the fretboard, and it also solidifies your knowledge of chord tones. So for C major, the C major triad, C, E, and G, we're going to play that on the E string. So we just need to find those notes. So we begin C, okay? Find a C. Here we have one at the 8th fret of the E string. Next we need an E, okay, E, 12th fret, then we need a G, okay, 15th fret, and then we can work up to the octave if we want. So we come all the way up here to, what's that, the 20th fret. So C, E, G, C. Okay, so each time you just finding that note, and like I said, if you don't know your neck very well, you're going to have to work at it. You know, you're going to have to find the notes. So don't worry about playing to a click or anything like that. You know, don't play it in time. Just find each note in isolation. So when you've got to find the C, if you don't know where the C is, don't worry, you got to work it out. So, you know, however you have to do that, if you look at a fretboard diagram, whatever it is to find it, you need to find that C. There it is, 8th fret. Then do the same thing, looking for the E. Okay, where's that E? Okay, it's there. Where's the G? It's there. Okay, remember everything above the 12th fret is the same as below. So, you know, if you know that's a G there at the 3rd fret, then you know that that fret marker there is a G. So C, E, G. Work up and then back if you can. So C, G, E, and C. It's a little bit harder to come back down because you've got to do everything in reverse, but that's it. There's your C major arpeggio. So next, let's try that C major triad on the A string. So we need a C. So there's a C, 3rd fret of the A string. Then we move up to the E, find an E, 7th fret, then a G, 10th fret, and then we can take the octave at the 15th fret, okay? Okay, now, obviously at first, you know, with all of these, even if it takes a long time to find each note, it doesn't matter. You want it to be hard, okay? You really want to be working on this, you know, because you're trying to develop the muscle memory for each of them. You know, you've got all these neural pathways that you're developing. So, you know, each of these notes is going to seem hard at first, but then as you develop the muscle memory for each of those notes, it's going to become easier each time. So the next time you try it, you know, you might think, okay, I know that's C. Where was the E? Okay, it's there. G, okay, that was there above that dot, you know, and then C, okay. And you just keep working through it like that. Just keep trying it, and eventually it'll become pretty automatic. So once you've tried the A string, then you can try the D string. So again, we're still going to start, you know, on a C. There is, you know, a separate variation on this exercise where you actually start, you know, with the lowest note you can find. But we'll start on the C. So there's one at the 10th fret, so we're pretty high here. So C, then we find an E, then a G, and then we can move up to a C. Now the C on this, I can get it on this bass up here, up at the, what's that, the 22nd fret or whatever it is. But most of you might have 20 fret necks, in which case, you know, when you get as high as you can, just come back down. So C, E, G, and you could come down to the G down here and back up, anywhere you want, okay? Then we move on to the G string. We've got C, then E, G, up to C. Okay? So, big warning. Don't try and find a pattern. Don't start looking for 6 fret distances between the notes and all that, you know, looking for intervals on a single string. It might make you feel better about yourself in the short term, but remember, when you practice bass, you want to be learning stuff that you can't do. You want all of your failures to take place in practice, and this exercise should be as hard as you can make it for yourself. So for every chord tone, locate them in isolation. Try to forget about the previous note and ignore the next note. You're reciting the notes of the chord and then finding them on the fretboard. So let's just try a couple more. Let's try D major. So again, on the E string, remember E is the lowest note we've got there, so we've got to go quite high for a D. So there's the D, 10th fret, then we want F sharp, so F sharp there, the 14th fret, then up to the A, so that's at the 17th fret, and if you can get it, if you've got a 24 fret neck or a 22 fret neck, try the D up here. So D, A, F sharp, D, okay? Then onto the A string, D, F sharp, A, D, and back down, A, F sharp, D. Then when we go get onto the D string, we've got the open D, so we can have D, F sharp, there at the 4th fret, A, 7th fret, and up to the 12th fret for the D. Remember, I'm doing all of this with one finger, so we're not thinking in terms of patterns and position shifts. It's just all simple location, okay? So then for the G string, we need to find a D, so we've got the D there, 7th fret, and then we want an F sharp, so 11th fret, and then the A, up there at the 14th fret, and then we want to get up to this D up here at the 19th fret, so D, A, F sharp, D, okay? So take your time on it. It doesn't matter how long it takes to play each one of them. You know, you might feel a bit stupid, you know, if you can't find them and it's like taking you 5 minutes to play one of these shapes on a, or one of these arpeggios, sorry, on a string. But over time, it's going to get easier. You're just going to get better and better and better at it. Now let's just try one more. So let's try E major. So E, open E string there, so then we want G sharp, so there's a G sharp 4th fret, then up to the B, so we've got a B there at the 7th fret, and then we can take the E at the 12th fret, so E, G sharp, B, E, B, G sharp, E. Then onto the A string, so where's there an E? 7th fret, so E, always try to go for the lowest one that you can find on the string, obviously, so E, G sharp, there at the 11th fret, B, and then up to the E. D string, we've got an E at the 2nd fret there, so E, G sharp, B, E, and then down to B, G sharp, E. Then onto the G string, again we've got to go quite high, so we've got to go for the 9th fret there for the E, so E, and then the G sharp, there at the 13th fret, E, G sharp, and then the B, and then up to the E, if you can get it, so E, then B, G sharp, E. Okay, so as you can see, each time you do this, you're having to think of each of those notes for the chord. So E, G sharp, and B. You know, that's the first thing. That's why I say you need to develop that foundation before you actually apply them. And then when you're applying them, you're developing your knowledge of the neck. So you can try through each major arpeggio in turn, natural notes and then flat notes, but an even better method for learning that is to work through the cycle of fourths. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, etc. If you don't know anything about the circle of fifths and fourths, then I have a very popular video dealing with it here on YouTube, containing another exercise that's great for learning the fretboard. So I'll link to that video below, but basically you'll work through the cycle of fourths on a single string, then moving on to the next and so on. So you start with C major, then F major, then B flat major, E flat major, and so on. Okay, so that's the exercise, but what's the end result of all of this? Well, once you know those arpeggios by note and you know your fretboard to a good level, playing those arpeggios in more confined spaces becomes really simple. So for a B flat major arpeggio working across the fretboard vertically, I can just pick out the notes that I know, regardless of the pattern. So if I know it's B flat, D, and F, I can just find a B flat, and then find a close by D, and a close by F, and a B flat, and a D. Okay, and I just play the notes. I don't necessarily have to think of it as some, muscle memory pattern. It will become muscle memory over time, the more that you play it. But when you do this, you won't feel as restricted, because then once you want to move out of that area, if that was the only pattern that you knew, let's say, you wouldn't know how to move up and away. So B flat, D, F, B flat, D, and then the F and up to the B flat. You can easily shift out of there. And once you're up there, up to the B flat, you know that you've got this here, the D, the B flat. You're just seeing those notes. You know that it's B flat, D, and F, and you know where the B flats, the Ds, and the Fs are, okay? So it makes it dead easy. Okay, so that's the major arpeggio. Give me a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more lessons every Friday. Like I said, the lesson material is all there over at Talkingbass, so just hit that link in the info below, and I'll see you next week.